Hi guys, my name is Sharmin Hossain, and what I decided to speak about within my Women in the Media project was actually the controversy behind a very comment-worthy photo published by an Egyptian activist, Aliyah Mahdi. So we were going to compare that to actually American standards of sexual liberation, and as well as compare the different degrees of patriarchy. And it will be exemplified through blogs that women use and self-identified feminists use as tools of self-expression and social media. So right here I have the photo of Aliyah Mahdi, who is an Egyptian activist as well as self-identified feminist, who decided to post a photo of herself completely naked with nothing but fishnets on and a pair of red shoes. Once again, she was located in Egypt at the time of this distribution of that photo. And right under the photo, she had quoted, "Put on trial the artists' models who posed nude for art schools until the early 70s. Hide the art books and destroy the nude state statues of antiquity. Then undress and stand before a mirror and burn your bodies that you despise to forever rid yourselves of your sexual hang-ups before you direct your humiliation and chauvinism and dare to try to deny me of my freedom of expression." So there you go, where a woman is choosing to sexually liberate herself by exposing herself. In contrast to American culture, where patriarchy is seen as women exposing themselves, Egyptian culture, which is an Islamist culture, sees patriarchy as women not being able to expose themselves. So right then and there, we have a contrast between what America understands to be oppression of women and Egyptian or Arab world culture understands to be oppression of women. When you have oppression, patriarchy, in the form of sexual identity and sexual body, and where women are repressed from any type of, self-identification, because if she shows her body, she's politicized. If she doesn't show her body and decides to wear the niqab or the hijab, she's politicized. So I thought it was very interesting to see the difference in attitudes and perceptions of patriarchy, just because you have two opposing cultures, yet the underlying theme is patriarchy. In a Western or American culture, and we have seen the political cartoon in the Daily News where a woman with a full burqa on and the niqab on is saying to herself while looking at a half-naked Western woman in a bikini, "Oh, how oppressed she is because she is half-naked, fulfilling the desires of a man." Whereas the Western woman is looking at the woman with the hijab on and saying how oppressed she is because the men in her culture do not allow her to show herself. So right then and there, we have a contrast between the different types of subjectivity. We have patriarchy, and it displayed in Western culture, where women are objectified and they're, seen on ads naked to sell a bottle of beer or seen on ads to sell a car, in contrast to the Middle East culture, where women are told to cover their bodies so they aren't objectified. So as a feminist, and in the really, really amazing blog Feministing, Mona Altawi, who's also a feminist and social justice activist, has in support published an article talking about there is a patriarchy of our minds. And this really stood out to me, just because when we have conversation and dialogue about what constitutes the proper woman ideal and values, where is that coming from? You have, once again, such a huge contrast with the Western ideology, where it's coming from an oppressive male that sees objectification as, hey, get naked and shake your ass in front of a TV screen for me, or the Middle Eastern male that uses religion to say, hey, women should not be naked, women should have their hair covered, and women should not be objectified. Right then and there, you have a repression of women where their ideals and values and norms are being dictated by a systematic power. So Laura Mulvey, in her article, talking about, the visual narrative, had explained that the woman's desire is subjected to her image as existing only in relation to castration, and it cannot transcend it. So right then and there, we have a relation of a woman's body and her sexual identity being a result of castration, or a result of the penis, or a result of the man. So we forget to think that our ideals and values of who we are as women and why we do certain things, whether it be choosing to cover our body in black cloth or choosing to expose our body, we don't realize that it's an unconscious formed by a dominant social order. And this conditioning and this constant nurturing of our values is coming from an order, whether it be religious or whether it be exploitative sexual liberation, as some women view it, or as some women view it as oppressive. I thought the way feministing had, Mona Altawi had talked about it was so interesting, because the way she said that Egyptian women are viewed is a sum total of her headscarf and her hymen. So right away, Egyptian value or Arab values places virginity or a woman's sanctity above who she is. So when virginity is what a woman's totality is determined by, that is very problematic when it comes to a woman wanting to decide what she fundamentally believes and what she thinks is necessary for her to do as a woman. And I thought it was really interesting to see that Alia Mahdi, she's only 20 years old, she was so quick to say, rid yourselves of your sexual hang-ups before you direct your humiliation and chauvinism and dare to try to deny me of my freedom of expression. So even when women are commenting saying, hey, nudity is a form of man trying to get you to do what you want, we don't realize that that in itself is a form of chauvinism dictating our ideals. What if Alia Mahdi is like, well, why should I even care about what the man thinks? Because at the end of the day, it is my world and I have a choice over what I think is moral and immoral. I think it was really interesting because a few of the responses and comments that Alia Mahdi had received, entailed a lot of Egyptian and Arab women saying, oh, I believe in a woman's choice to do whatever she wants, but, that's blatant disrespect and it's immoral because she's naked. Well, once again, there's a difference of opinion on what's immoral and what's bad ethic value. And once again, there's somebody oppressing their ideas, which, to be honest, the woman who had commented was a Muslim hijabi that felt the need to express that, hey, I don't think women should be subjected, so you subjecting yourself is offensive to all women. I think it's really interesting to see that conservatism and the women that just are, obviously naturally victimized by patriarchy, they're forbidden to show what's private. They're forbidden to show what's in them. And if they do, it's either, in Western culture that, hey, she's doing what she wants, she's a feminist, or in Egyptian culture, she's looked down upon. And I think it's really interesting to see misogynistic ideology alter through Egypt and alter through our Western world. What was so interesting when I was flipping through Miss Magazine and I was looking at the way that political concepts were formed and the way that our political topics were being discussed is that Miss Magazine did not fail to highlight the differences in political culture between Egypt and the difference in political culture in America. And when they were talking about a woman who was actually running for a prime minister position in Iran, they had highlighted that high positions for women were not a practice in early Islam. So they actually recognized the fact that Islam, which is a fundamentalist religion that believes that, hey, the government should be dictated by Islamic fundamentals, does not, in fact, encourage women activism in politics. And there's a total shift in power, concerning the political tension. And it's really, I think it's really pivotal to our understanding as feminists and our understanding as people who want to break the barriers of social oppression, to understand the political culture of each country and how different areas and regions and cultures define liberation differently. American liberation, post Iraq era would be, hey, recruit our troops back, bring them back home. Whereas, like, let's say a Middle Eastern country that's going through massive, guerrilla warfare might say, hey, we need troops to save us. We need our government to save us. I think it's really interesting to put a lens on the way we examine patriarchy and the subconscious mind, and especially when it comes to concerning ideals and fundamentals pertaining to religion. In general, the Aliyah Mahdi scandal or her, liberation to me was a great thing to do, just because, hey, at the end of the day, it's your self-expression. And as a Muslim woman, I wear hijab and I, still dress in blazers and jeans, and that's my form of self-expression. And in a sense, to me, it's like, hey, I'm not objectifying myself, but I'm not saying a man should dictate how I express myself either. I thought that Women in the Media project is so interesting because as we go through women in the media, we always highlight the constant oppression or the sexual exploitation, but we don't highlight the difference in political culture that dictates oppression. So I really hope that we get something fundamentally out of the way we perceive different cultures or the way we perceive oppression